Hello, this is Dr. Stephanie D. Barnes, CEO of C-Suite Women's Network, where I help women and a few good men to be the CEOs of their lives so they can be better CEOs of their businesses. And I am excited to continue the series, Being a Badass CEO, releasing yourself from the traps that trap you in mediocrity. Because as a CEO, you were not meant to be mediocre. You weren't meant to be average. You weren't meant to be like anyone else. You were meant to be excellent. And in fact, I think Chief Executive Officer, CEO should really be Chief Excellence Officer. Because as the chief, you make the decisions. You make the decisions to create the life you desire and deserve. And those decisions need to be executed with excellence, and you need to operationalize your plans so that you can have the outcomes you desire. And that's a whole lot of words that say you need to make CEO moves, baby, because, it is time for you as a CEO to take yourself off mute. Because, sometimes we think that as women in particular, that we don't have anything important to say, or, I'm just a whatever, I'm just a manager, I'm just a receptionist, I'm just a mom. You're not just anything. You have education, you have experience, you have influence that makes you somebody. And it's time for you to take yourself off mute and quit discounting your abilities and start accounting for the value that you bring, the excellence that you have achieved, and using that education, experience, and influence to live the purpose that you were designed to live. A lot of times we think that our lives aren't anything special. We think that, our stories don't deserve to be told. But here's the thing. There's a power in your story. And it's time for you to take yourself off mute and quit hiding behind the power of your story and quit giving the abridged version, and instead step into the full power of your story and tell people about what you've done. You know, Writing gives significance to your thoughts. Now, I'm a writer. In addition to being a business coach and attorney and leadership expert, I love to write. I've always loved to write ever since I was a little girl. I used to write all these crazy stories. They weren't crazy stories. They were just very elaborate and imaginative. But today, I use my words to give significance to the thoughts that can make a difference in other women's lives, in other leaders' lives. And it's important for us to take the stories of our lives, the things that we've learned, the lessons that we've learned, the accomplishments that we've had, the trials that we have overcome. Because here's something that a lot of women in particular discount. There is a powerful testimony in what you think right now is just a sad story. When you overcome things, it's not just about your personal triumph. Your personal triumph is the inspiration that will help another woman to see, you know what? She did that. I think I can too. So take yourself off mute. It's time to make some noise. Not just, hey, y'all, I want to tell you what all I'm doing stuff. Not that type of noise, not self-aggrandization, not just saying stuff just to be saying it, but learn the value of your story and share that with others so that they can learn from you. Sometimes in addition to making some noise, you got to create some disruptions. And the analogy that I like to use, I'm a little bit of a renegade sometimes in how I describe our ascension to the C-suite, again, being the CEOs of their lives. And I always like to think about, the fact that, many times we want to keep the peace. And I talked about this in segment 1. But sometimes we need to be disruptive, because disruption is the birthing place for innovation. disruption is the birthing place for innovation. And I like to say, instead of just thinking about the fact that, we need to think about what would Jesus do. And a lot of times when people think about what would Jesus do, they think about, okay, he was meek, he was mild, he turned the other cheek. But you know what? Jesus also kicked some tables over at the temple. And sometimes we need to be like Jesus and kick those tables over and disrupt some things so that we can create change. Now, why do I like to tell that story? Not to be blasphemous in any kind of way, but here's the thing. Jesus was a very peaceful man, right? He was committed to the gospel. He was committed to teaching others to be kind, to be meek, to be humble in what they did. But he was so committed to what he was doing that he was like, you know what? I'm going to disrupt some things. This is so objectionable to me that I'm not just going to let people sell their wares at the temple. I'm going to kick over these tables and get people out. And sometimes that's what we've got to do in our lives. We've got to be so committed that we're not afraid to be disruptive. That was not the entire representation of his character. That was an exception, but it was an exception that made a point. And that is, you can't go with the flow and expect to change direction in your life. You can't go with the flow and expect to change direction in your life. If you want to change the direction of your life, then sometimes you've got to disrupt things. Sometimes you've got to make some noise, and you definitely have got to tell a story that goes along with it. Because disruptions play a role in getting us to innovation in two ways. One, we can create disruptions as a way of creating the change that we want to see in the world. And two, when disruption happens to us, divorce, job layoffs, job cutbacks, demotions, we use those disruptions to elevate us to the next level. The last story that I want to tell you is this, something that I just think is the most beautiful illustration of this. We all know who Oprah Winfrey is, right? Well, Oprah Winfrey started her career as a television news anchor. And she got demoted from that position to become a talk show host of this little show in Chicago. She was demoted to becoming a talk show host, and that launched her media empire. And now she owns her own television station. So your demotion can actually be a promotion to your purpose. So my point here today is this: take yourself off mute. Be willing to make some noise. Be willing to disrupt some things, kick some tables over every once in a while. But here's the last thing. If a table gets kicked over on you, just push it back and remember that your demotion could be the promotion to your purpose. This is Dr. Stephanie D. Barnes, and I want to help you to make some noise, tell your story, and create some disruption that's going to lead to your elevation. So why don't you go over to www.discovertheceoinu.com. Again, that's www.discovertheceoinu.com. And let's have a free strategy session about how you are going to create some disruption that's going to get you to your next level. This is Dr. Stephanie D. Barnes, and I am the CEO of C-Suite Women's Network, where I help women to be the CEOs of their lives so they can be better CEOs in their business. Your life is the product of your choices. Choose to be the CEO of your life. Can't wait to see you in the C-Suite.